Hello and welcome back. We're in the Aveline outfit. We're going to be taking a look over London from the Whitechapel station. Have had to do a reset since the last time I talked, so it's typical and it's where it's coming. But the Aveline outfit seemed appropriate. Here, let's do a pan around so you can take a good look at it. See, pretty cool outfit. Um, but anyway, Aveline seemed appropriate to this conversation because of some interesting things that have happened just today. It's kind of bizarre, but I think I should give a background of myself, of where I come from, where my attitude is coming from. In terms of politics, I'm a nonpartisan independent, basically meaning I don't agree with one party or the other, or even, independents, parties, or libertarians. I basically make my own decisions based on everything else. Now, if it were 60 years ago, I would probably be considered a liberal. So, in certain senses, I could be considered a classic liberal, but we don't do labels here. So, I was raised in northern Utah, in middle America, predominantly white, predominantly members of my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Mormons, however you want to call us. And you would think that in modern terms, for the most part, people in Middle America are considered to be, racist hillbillies, basically. Redneck, hillbilly, racist, so on and so forth. And you would think I would have been raised in that environment. The weird thing was, being raised in the 80s in northern Utah was very, very different. Even though it was predominantly white, there was this assumption that everyone was equal, regardless of skin color, of race, of creed, or even of religious beliefs. Everyone was equal. We may not always agree with them, but everyone was equal. And so I was raised with that assumption that everyone is going to be equal, and I never thought in my lifetime that assumption would be questioned, because it seems so patently obvious to me that everyone is equal and everyone is, is judged by the quality of their character, not the color of their skin. And, up until about a decade or so ago, I would say that was the case. But now, more than ever, it seems more and more the color of your skin becomes more and more important, and I get to see firsthand people who prioritize skin color over quality of character. Now, the odd thing that I'm finding, and we're going to lead into the events of today, but the odd thing I'm finding is that it's often the people who profess to be the most progressive in today's society, the most woke, who tend to be the most racist against people of all skin colors. So they don't really discriminate in that regard. They're equally racist to everyone, which. And it doesn't seem like they can even do that right, because I knew people growing up who would say the most racist things, but they would actually be more egalitarian than anyone else because they treated everyone that way. It doesn't matter your skin color, you're treated poorly either way. In this case nowadays, it's similar, but it also feels like they're doing that wrong. They don't treat everyone as if they were equal, even though they profess to be pushing for an equality of outcomes, basically equality of treatment, equality of outcome, equality of everything. They say they push for it, but they don't really truly believe in it. So that kind of leads me to the points about today. So it started on Twitter, doesn't it always? Came across this really, really odd post from someone whose profile picture was white, used the pronouns she and her. Pretty much that's the only thing listed on their profile page, she and her. But this person had come out and made this statement, this idea that certain restaurants, such as Popeyes, other fried restaurants that specialize in fried chicken, those sort of restaurants need to set up these vaccination sites, places where people can go and get the vaccine in them, Because, and I'm quoting directly here, not enough black people have been vaccinated. Now, this is almost, at least for me, this is almost shockingly racist of a statement. Not, you know, stating that a certain people of a certain race need to get vaccinated. It has nothing to do with vaccination. It's the assumption that the way to get black people vaccinated was to go to fried chicken restaurants, which is, you know, considered to be very, very racist. If you don't believe me, I encourage you to look up Dave Chapelle and chicken on YouTube. You can get a pretty funny video of him talking about this assumption. There's this weird assumption that I've never fully understood myself, that black people really, really like fried chicken, which seems like an odd statement to me because I'm as white as they come and I really, really like fried chicken too. But the point I'm getting at is that this person who, you know, is fairly progressive, pretty woke of a person based on what I saw of her tweets, honestly believes that, you know, would make such a racist statement and then would, you know, believe themselves to be in the right. It's really kind of an odd approach to, you know, it's how to describe it. It's these odd sort of generalizations that I see coming from people who claim to be progressive, claim to be woke, yet they'll group people into little groups and, you know, associate them with this generalization that may or may not be true. I encountered this years ago when the debate about gay marriage was reaching its zenith. Before it was made legal, there's a lot of debate back and forth about whether it should be or not. You can look it up. There's some pretty interesting points on both sides. But so I found this weird conversation where I'm talking to, you know, some people. They weren't actually that much younger than me, but a few years younger than me. And to my surprise, one of them made the statement that any man who has a lisp is gay. Now this kind of shocked me. I actually, that's such a weird generalization about gay men, because I've known a lot of people, and the only people I've ever met who've had lisps have been people who were straight. That this is honestly true, whether male, female, it's always been straight people who have had lisp, as opposed to, yeah, gay people. I've never met a single gay person who has a lisp, much less a gay man who has a lisp. So it's this, it seemed like such an 80s anti-gay, you know, like, even before 80s, like 70s anti-gay rhetoric, that gay men had to have a lisp. So I'm like, that's weird. And so I started to use an example of a guy I knew who was very much straight. He was married. He was very religious, married. There's nothing about him that said gay. And when I mentioned that he had a very, very slight lisp on the letter S, which he had from birth, and he mostly had corrected through speech therapy, but every once in a while you could hear it. So I got to the part where he had a very slight lisp, and they said, "Oh, no, he's gay. No, you're naive to believe that any man who doesn't have a lisp is gay." And it was such an odd generalization. I got to talking around them, and finally kind of questioned them why they would have this sort of stereotype, and I finally asked a question that I was dying to know the answer to, which was essentially, do you actually know anyone who is gay? The response I got was, the first response was, well, maybe. They could have been in the closet, I don't know. Which, in retrospect, makes me laugh. But I said, okay, do you know anybody that you knew was actually gay that wasn't just in the closet? And no. Now, this wasn't a small town in middle America. This was in Boston. And they had never met a gay person. And so had all these generalizations about gay people. And I'm beginning to believe a lot of people who are woke, or who believe themselves to be progressive and woke and so on, don't really have any direct knowledge for themselves. They just go by what they read online or what they've heard from other people. They don't really know for themselves. So they have these odd sort of generalizations that they make. You know, for example, all gay men have lisps, or all black people really love fried chicken. Not because it's delicious, but because they're black, which is really it's just such a crazy generalization, because just about every human being I know loves fried chicken. Even vegetarians love fried chicken. They just can't eat it. Vegans probably love fried chicken for all I know. So it's weird that, you know, it's they believe specifically only one race alone will love fried chicken. And, you know, we find these weird sort of generalizations. So to kind of continue my story, I, on a different part of Twitter, got into some conversations about modern Doctor Who and back and forth, and, you know, there's this weird straw man going around that people who complain about that Doctor Who has always been woke, and people who complain about it don't really know Doctor Who. And that's not the case, because most of the time, for the most part, the complaint about Doctor Who being woke is to do with how certain politics are presented in modern Doctor Who versus how they were presented in classic Doctor Who. And most of the people who complain about the modern wokeism really like classic Doctor Who and really like how the politics were presented back then, because it felt very different, and that was the root of the problem. So anyway, I got talking to this person, and I kind of just basically specified, you know, I made that distinction that I just made. And they talk about, you know, how they're kind of more woke and more so on. And I said, well, people who are woke, they generally, you know, I pretty much related what I just told you, just a lot shorter, just how a lot of woke people and progressive people don't really seem to know what they're talking about in terms of race or sexuality or anything like that, but that they are actually pushing these agendas that are in and of themselves racist or homophobic or whatever, and they don't realize it because, you know, they believe themselves to be progressive and beyond that, and don't realize they're really being the things that they complain about. And this man I was talking to on Twitter basically said, can you give me an example? I said, well, yeah, I have one from today, and gave him the example of, as I said before, the woman who said, basically, yes, that we should set up vaccination sites at, you know, fried chicken restaurants, just to get more black people vaccinated, because not enough black people are vaccinated, so go to the fried chicken places to vaccinate them. I'm sorry, it's just funny to me. And so I did that, and his response was really weird. I even actually linked part of the Dave Chapelle stand-up video about chicken to him, to, you know, just, you know, because I thought it was funny. Not because I thought it needed clarification, but apparently it did, and he didn't notice it, because his response was, well, I can understand why it's not really racist, but I can understand why black people wouldn't want to get the vaccine because of the, I'm going to completely mispronounce this. I always say Tuskegee, but it's pronounced something completely different. Here's something that you may not know. People who read more than they talk will mispronounce things more often because they see it in print but they don't hear it. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But the Tuskegee experiments from years ago, he brought it up, and that's why they didn't want to be vaccinated, but this person had their heart in the right place. And I'm like, wait, the problem isn't the vaccination and relationship to history or anything like that. The problem was that her, frankly, racist comment about black people and chicken was the problem, and that's why that was racist. Yet this person who himself, he identifies as quite woke, could not identify that was racist. Now, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I want to say, okay, you know, he possibly didn't know that was considered to be racist. That's fine, but, you know, if he's setting himself up as being anti-racist, which he did in later conversation, just say, well, we're anti-racist, and I had to say, well, you're behaving in a racist fashion, and his response was, well, that's what all the racists say, that anti-fascists or anti-racists are actually racist. That's what racists say. And it's like, okay, that's circular logic, but okay, whatever. Um, it's, I think the whole point of my discussing this, being in the Avalon outfit to discuss it and so on, is really that. I think if I have moral to all of this in my experience is to question everything, even yourself. You could inadvertently be saying or doing something racist and not realize it. And no matter how progressive you may be, you still can make mistakes and still could be racist. And I think it's when you don't recognize that, oh, this might be racist, or let's actually make it even more general. This could be really rude or offensive to somebody, what you're doing, what you're saying. But if you dismiss it, if you just, say, oh, that's nothing, you forgive your own sins, but then you immediately spot all the racism, all the bias, all the rudeness in other people, but never see any of your own rudeness, it's not a good position to find yourself, because it's good to forgive yourself of your sins, yes, but it's also good to remember, for you to realize, one, that you committed a sin and that you need to forgive yourself, and two, to be able to recognize that you've done something wrong and make move to correct it. When you reach a point where you don't recognize the bad stuff that you're doing, you don't even realize that it's bad, or it could be just offensive to somebody else, not even necessarily bad, but that, oh no, I couldn't possibly be racist because I'm very progressive, I'm very woke, I couldn't possibly say or do anything racist. That's when you're going to have problems, and that's when you're going to probably do a lot of really bad stuff, because you don't recognize in yourself the capacity to do bad stuff. So yeah, that is kind of a roundabout way of saying it, and I hope I'm being clear. But recognize in yourself your own foibles, your own weaknesses, your own sins. Be able to see that in yourself, and that, because once you're able to see that, and listen, if somebody's saying, hey, dude, that's really, really bad, that's really racist, don't say, oh, pshaw, I'm not racist at all. Say, oh my gosh, I didn't mean to, I'm so sorry. Recognizing that, being humble about the stuff you say and the stuff you do, is the way to actually be progressive, to way you personally can progress yourself to become a better person. So anyway, that was kind of the longish video. I hope you enjoyed this view of London. It's very bright today. Yeah, last view, it took place all overnight, and we saw clouds and so on. This was pretty good, pretty bright, pretty not rainy, very summery. I'm gonna say this is a very summery shot. And hopefully, I'm thinking I will probably do another video of me going through kind of the opening area of the game and doing all the side quests and missions and just talking about it. Again, this is a really, really fun, great game. I absolutely love it, and yeah, it serves for a good backdrop for a lot of these discussions, and I'm hoping my system can keep up with it. Thus far, at this point, I don't dare show any of the cutscenes, because we're having this weird lag where the first half, or the first few words of the sentence will be said, and then there'll be a long pause, then the next few sentences will be spoken, but then the audio's out of sync with the with the voices, and oftentimes the voices will run over each other. It's a really odd sort of cut sequence, but that's a problem with an old system. So anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm on the right track or the wrong track about being humble and recognizing that, hey, maybe you could do something wrong inadvertently, but that's how you improve. That's how you get better. That's how you be a better person. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.